The day my marriage ended, the sun was bright enough to make the concrete sparkle. I remember that because I kept thinking, how can everything look so clean when everything feels so dirty? I was in my truck, Noah Bennett, 39, construction project manager, lover of level lines and straight answers, watching a silver sedan circle to the third floor of the Cedar Ridge Outlet Center. Avery Reed, my wife of 12 years, said she was meeting the girls. She'd kissed me on the cheek like we were still us and dabbed at a lipstick smudge with a patience she hadn't used on me in months. New perfume, too. Something sweet and careful, like she was trying to smell like a promise. When her Lexus glided past the mall entrance and climbed, my stomach climbed with it. Shoppers Park on level 1. People who don't want to be seen choose 3. I idled behind a pillar and watched Avery sit for a moment, smoothing her black dress like a script she'd rehearsed. Then a black Navigator rolled in and pulled alongside. Jonathan Pierce, her boss, stepped out. Fridays at Morrison and Pierce Marketing. Polos, expensive watches, bad decisions. He didn't even pretend to keep a respectful distance. His hand found her lower back, and Avery melted like that part of her had been waiting for his palm all day. Construction teaches you to document everything. Deliveries, change orders, weather delays. If it isn't written down or filmed, it might as well not have happened. So I recorded. Not the whole thing. I captured just enough. The way she said 3 days is too long, like it was a joke they loved. The flash of his wedding ring. The way she tilted her face for him like the sun was behind his eyes. When they slid into the back seat, I closed my phone, crossed the distance, and opened the door. The sound that came out of Jonathan wasn't outrage or surprise. It was a squeak, like a hinge begging for oil. I didn't hit him hard. I'm not built for scenes, and I know what a single wrong move can cost a man in court. I pulled him onto the concrete and let gravity do the rest. Avery's lipstick was a smear now. Noah, this isn't real, I asked. It looked real. Security boots scuffed toward us. Radios crackled. I raised my hands, stepped back, and showed my phone. We're good, I said to the guard. I'm leaving. Noah, wait. Avery pleaded. Please, we need to talk. I could have argued in circles with her for hours and still ended up lost. Instead, I did what I've always done when I don't trust a structure. I backed away, took photos, wrote notes, and made a plan. By 3 a.m., my home office had turned into a war room. Coffee, printer heat, files. I backed up the clips 6 times, cut it to 30 seconds. No vulgar audio, no graphic content, only what mattered. Rings, lies, names. I drafted emails to the Morrison and Pierce board in HR. Subject line: documented policy violation involving senior executive and direct report. I kept it clinical. You say too much, you sound vindictive. You say just enough, the facts do the heavy lifting. I found a number for Jonathan's wife, Caroline Pierce. Cornell MBA. 2 kids. Her professional headshot looked like honesty got her tired, but never took her down. I wrote, you don't know me. You deserve to know this. I attached the clip and pressed send with hands that didn't shake. I changed the locks at 8, scheduled movers for 9, and opened a separate account at noon. Our prenup had an infidelity clause. We'd signed it laughing, promising it would never matter. It mattered now. By 5 that evening, Avery was texting in bursts, confused, then panicked, then angry. When she wrote, you ruined my life, I typed back, I didn't ruin it. I revealed it. That night, Big Ralph, my foreman, texted, her marketing guy got fired for messing with a staffer. You need anything? I'm here. Construction guys don't ask for details. We carry cinder blocks for each other and keep walking. The next morning, my inbox filled with polite replies from corporate addresses that suddenly sounded like sirens. Morrison and Pierce had initiated an immediate investigation. The board wanted a confidential conversation. HR used policy 3 times in 4 sentences. The third reply came from a private Gmail. Is this real? Caroline. I called her, and she said, thank you, like she was closing a door I couldn't see. I wish I could tell you there was a moment it started. One mistake, one drink too many at a conference, one misread smile. But that's a fairy tale people tell, so the demolition looks tidy. Buildings don't collapse because of one bad bolt. They fall because nobody inspected the hidden joints for years. Avery and I had been walking past hairline cracks with our eyes squeezed shut. We've been a routine. Saturdays, pancakes, hardware store, Avery's yoga. Weeknights, my dirt-dusted boots, her laptop, two people in the same room with their minds on opposite coasts. I thought it was a season. She thought it was a sentence. By Sunday night, people I'd never met were whispering my name in boardrooms and group chats. I kept my head down and measured twice before I cut anything else. If you ask me when I knew, I'll tell you it was the day the phones changed. We'd always left them in a pile by the sink, tangled in charger cords, ringing when they felt like it. Then Avery started flip down, face down, turned away living. She said it was work. Eric wants projections updated by 9. Then flinched when I reached for a spoon and almost brushed her screen. There were other tells. New perfume, she said the girls wore. An expensive lingerie receipt dated 3 days after she told me Sharon's bachelorette had come and gone. Silk nightgowns traded for t-shirts. A shoulder that slid away from me when I touched it in the dark. The night she came home late from a client dinner, smelling like hotel soap. I lay awake staring at our ceiling fan spinning slow and thought about roofs I've repaired in July heat. You climb up there thinking it's a simple patch, then your boot sinks, and you realize the boards under the shingles are mush. You can't fix mush. You replace it, or you fall through. I asked gentle questions. How's the Chicago account? Are you sleeping okay? Avery could smile and make you believe you hadn't seen what you saw. We're fine, she'd say, and pour more coffee. Her voice was a fresh coat of paint, clean and bright. If you didn't press, you could pretend the wall wasn't crumbling under it. At some point, I stopped pretending. She said she was going outlet shopping. I waited 15 minutes and followed, telling myself I was being careful, not paranoid. The navigator, the hand on the back, the practice kiss. Sometimes a whole building tells you what it is in a single glance. I could have blown up right then. I could have posted the clip to the company's Slack, the neighborhood Facebook, sent it to every contact in her phone with a subject line that said, "Look." But my father taught me 2 things. Rage makes you sloppy, and sloppy gets you sued. So I took the demolition permit to people who stamped them. HR, the board, the spouse who deserve the truth. Monday morning, Morrison and Pierce issued a statement about mutual separations and serious concerns. By lunch, Jonathan's office was an empty beige with a ring where his monitor used to sit. Avery texted, "They let me go. Please, Noah, talk to me. I want to say 100 things." I settled for one. "Your lawyer can reach mine." That afternoon, Caroline called again. "He's sleeping at his mother's," she said. "He says it was a mistake. He made thousands of choices," I said. "Mistakes are single steps." She exhaled. "For what it's worth, you did the right thing." I didn't feel right. I felt hollowed out. My love for Avery had been a sturdy table that could handle whatever we set on it. Bills, birthdays, late-night laughter. Now the legs were termites and saris. I stood in our kitchen, staring at the dent in the drywall from the time we tried to move the couch through the narrow doorway, and laughed so hard we sank to the floor. You can live with dents. It's what you can't let stay. Avery showed up at my new apartment 2 weeks later, wearing our first date perfume like a time machine. "Can I come in?" she asked, eyes rimmed red, voice frayed. I stepped aside. She sat on the second-hand couch I'd bought with cash from the guy down the street, and folded her hands like a student. The wedding band-ten line on her finger looked almost cruel. "It started in Chicago," she said before I asked. "We were all at the hotel bar. He said I was brilliant, that I deserved a bigger track. We didn't," she swallowed. "That night, we just talked. When we got home, he sent me articles, jokes about campaigns. It felt like someone finally got it." "I got it," I said, too sharp. I just didn't wear a suit while I listened. "You tuned out, Noah." There was pain in it, not accusation, which somehow hurt worse. "I'd start to tell you about a strategy, and your eyes would go soft, and I knew you were still on the job site in your head. So you found a man who made you feel important," I said. "And this," I gestured at air heavy with what she wouldn't name, "is his version of appreciation. I'm not justifying it." Tears slid cleanly. "I'm trying to tell you how I got so lost. When he held my hand, it felt like waking up. And when you came home," I asked, "who were you with then?" She flinched. "Noah, I signed the papers uncontested. I'm not here to fight. She pressed her palms to her eyes. "Why did you have to scorch the earth? The video, the emails. You could have just left." "Because consequences aren't cruelty," I said quietly. "Cruelty is kissing me goodbye while you plan which level park on. Cruelty is laughing about how I believed a sitter's story. Cruelty is pretending our life was a place you still wanted to live. She stopped. I am sorry. Not because I lost everything. Because I broke you. You didn't break me, I said, and I felt the truth of it as I spoke. You broke us. I get to decide what I'll be now. When she stood to leave, she looked back once. Do you still have the video? No, I lied. It was encrypted and buried. You don't keep it because you want to use it. You keep it because you've learned what happens when you're the only one who believes you. After she left, I stared at the ceiling of my quiet apartment and listened to the sound of my own breathing. There's a kind of peace that doesn't feel like peace at first. It feels like someone turned a volume down on your life, and you're not sure whether you missed the noise or the person who made it. People love messy revenge, the kind with smashed plates and shouted names. Mine was spreadsheets, timestamps, and 3-sentence emails. It started Sunday night with a secure folder I labeled permits, and ended weeks later with a judge's stamp and a debt-free future. First, the legal foundation. I met with my attorney, Dana Whitaker, who wore gray suits and had the calm of a woman who'd seen every kind of storm. Infidelity clause, she said, tapping our prenup. Ironclad. You're protected if we keep this clean. Clean is all I want, I said, and meant it. Second, the professional teardown. HR opened a formal inquiry. The board thanked me for my candor and assured me the company would uphold policy. That's corporate for terrified. I handed them the clip and a timeline, dates, texts, receipts. They didn't ask how I got the receipts. I didn't tell them I emptied the car trash on Tuesdays and read every crumpled scrap like it owed me rent. Third, the pressure points. Jonathan's 3 biggest clients had CEO emails right on their homepages. I sent them the same factual note. No threats, no adjectives. Just, before you renew, you should be aware of X involving the executive on your account. I signed my name and logged out. Construction has taught me that weight needs distribution. If the load sits on one beam, it fails. Spread it, and you can hold a building up forever, or bring it down evenly. Fourth, the personal guardrails. I changed the pins on accounts, moved half or shared savings, my legal right, and documented every penny. I hired a locksmith with a reputation, so clean the cops call him for advice. I told Avery, by text, that her things would be in labeled boxes and that any sentimental items she wanted could be listed through our attorneys. She wrote back, "You're not a man, you're a machine. Machines leave less mess than people," I thought, but I didn't type it. The fallout came fast. By Wednesday, Jonathan had resigned. By Friday, Avery's key card didn't work, and security walked her out. People say that part is cruel. I think it's clarity. There are some thresholds you don't get across anymore. That's when the cheater's revenge started. 2 anonymous OSHA complaints landed on my project. Unsafe harness practices, unsecured loads. It read like someone had Googled construction violations and filled in blanks. An inspector showed up unannounced on a windy Thursday and found nothing. Harnesses double-checked. Load secured twice. Log signed by men who learned the hard way that shortcuts cost fingers. Looks like someone wants to make trouble, the inspector said, flipping his clipboard closed. Looks like someone forgot who they were dealing with, I replied. The next week, a rumor tried to grow legs. Noah Bennett had anger problems. Someone said they'd seen me get physical in a parking garage. I didn't lie about that. I pulled a man out of a car and let him meet the floor. I also filed a police statement with an officer I've known since high school, and I had video that showed exactly what happened. No more, no less. It's amazing what sunlight does to mold. Avery texted from a new number. "Tell your crew to stop talking about me," she wrote. "My crew doesn't talk about you," I replied. "They build things. You made them hate me," she fired back. "I didn't make anything," I wrote. I revealed it. Then came the biggest swing. A demand letter from a lawyer I'd never heard of, claiming defamation, accusing me of malicious interference, and offering to settle for a number so high it read like a ransom. Dana smiled when she read it. "They're fishing," she said. "We'll send your timeline and the policy citations. Truth is a defense." We did. The letter disappeared like it had never learned to swim. I won't pretend I didn't feel satisfaction watching Jonathan scrub his LinkedIn and reappear 6 dates away with a title that had associate in it for the first time in a decade. I won't pretend I didn't feel a low, mean hum when I learned Avery was folding sweaters at a department store, while the industry she loved decided whether to forgive her. But I didn't dance on anybody's grave. Revenge was never the point. Safety was. You don't build on rotten beams. Sometime in the middle of all this, I met Maya Ellis, a structural engineer with a laugh that sounded like confidence and coffee strong enough to strip paint. She'd come on as a consultant for a mid-rise we were doing near the river. She shook my hand on a roof at sunrise and said, "If your beams are as solid as your scheduling, we're going to get along." We started with site walks and ended with late dinners that tasted like permission to be new. I told her everything by the third date because I didn't want the past knocking on our table like a waiter with the wrong order. She listened and said, "Good. I don't date doormats." I slept through the night for the first time in months. Avery was quiet for a while and then wasn't. She filed her own story in the court of opinion. Careful posts about healing, captions about emotional harm, a vague line about leaving a controlling marriage. I wanted to refute every syllable. Dana put a hand up. "You know the truth," she said, "and so do the people who matter. Don't wrestle in the mud." Then one of my smaller clients, Wright and Sons Renovations, called and sounded uneasy. "Got an email," Mr. Wright said. "Anonymous. Says you're unsafe and unstable. The language is familiar. You want to see my safety logs?" I asked. "Or talk to the inspector who just gave us a clean sheet?" "Already did," he said, a smile in his voice. "Figured you'd answer that way. We're good, Noah." The next attempt was slicker. Someone tried to log into my cloud storage from an address I didn't recognize. Two-factor stopped it. I changed the password to something the devil wouldn't guess and stared at the wall until my pulse slowed. That was the moment I realized you can win the big battle and still fight 100 small ones in the dark. The last countermove wasn't anonymous. Avery showed up again. No perfume this time, just wind-blown hair and a jacket too thin for October. "I want you to stop," she said before I could ask her why she was there. "Stop what?" I kept my voice even. "Stop making it impossible for me to get hired. Stop answering when people call you for a reference and telling them I'm a risk." "I haven't spoken to a single hiring manager," I said truthfully. "They don't call the ex. They call the firm. Or HR. Or they Google. Then call HR and tell them to knock it off," she snapped. "I don't manage HR at a company that fired you for cause," I said. "Avery, this is what consequences look like." Her chin trembled. "Jonathan told me he loved me. And then his lawyer told me to leave him alone." She laughed, thin and bitter. "I wasn't a bride. I was a distraction." Silence hummed between us. An apology wouldn't change a single thing, and yet I think we both wanted one. I wanted her to say the exact right combination of words that would make the images in my head lose their color. She wanted me to say something that would make the ground stop tilting. "What do you want from me?" I asked finally. "Mercy," she said, surprising us both. "Not for what I did. For what comes next. I know you'll win. I'm asking you to stop throwing punches when I'm already on the floor." I thought of the anonymous emails and OSHA complaints and logins. "You've been punching too," I said. Her cheeks went red. "I didn't." "Avery," I said gently. "You did." She swallowed, then looked me in the eye. "I thought if people questioned you, they'd stop listening to you. And then maybe the noise around me would die down. It was wrong. I don't need you to say it's wrong," I said. "I need you to stop doing it." She nodded. "I will. And I'll do what I've been doing," I said. "My job. My life. That's it." We stood there with the ghost of our house between us. The elbow-worn kitchen island, the dent in the drywall, the Saturday pancakes. There is nothing quite as loud as the quiet two people share when they know they're done. "I hope you're happy someday," she said. "I hope you are too," I replied, and the strange thing was, I meant it. That week, Caroline called me one last time. "Therapist says closure is a conversation," she said lightly, like closure was a product you could order and return. "So, thank you again. The kids are okay. I'm okay." It's odd how okay can feel like a miracle. "You didn't deserve any of it," I said. "Neither did you," she replied. "Do you regret your approach?" I looked out over a site where men I trusted moved like a choreography we'd built together. Lift, secure, signal, set. "I regret it needed doing," I said. "I don't regret doing it right." "Then that's your answer," she said. "Maya," and I found a rhythm that felt like a prayer you didn't know you knew. Mornings on roofs with coffee. Afternoons arguing about load paths with smiles that said, keep going. Evenings cooking badly and laughing well. When she reached for my hand, I didn't flinch. There was one thing left to do. I opened the encrypted folder in the cloud, stared at the 30-second clip, and hovered over delete. I didn't press it, not because I wanted to use it, because sometimes the past sits in a box labeled open in emergencies only, and discipline is knowing which emergencies count. 6 months later, the river threw back sunlight like it wanted to blind us all. The mid-rise Maya and I shepherded stood clean and square against a sky rubbed blue by wind. We'd come in under budget, ahead of schedule, with 0 incidents. The crew got bonuses. I got sleep. Maya texted at 8:57 a.m. Coffee in 3? I answered, bring the strong one. She arrived on the roof with 2 cups and a look that always lands like good weather. You're early, she said. I like watching a city wake up, I replied. Reminds me that time moves whether we deserve it or not. Poetic Bennett, she teased. Careful, or I'll start thinking you're soft. Only where it counts, I said, and she laughed like the world was simple again. News traveled in polite ripples. Jonathan had resurfaced as regional business development lead for a startup in Phoenix. His profile photo looked like someone told him to smile, and he forgot how. Caroline went back to her maiden name and took a VP role at a competitor. Her posts weren't triumphs. They were quiet updates about PDA meetings and small wins. That's how you know the healing is real. Avery was working retail and taking a class at night. I knew because Cedar Ridge is a mid-sized town and the world is smaller than you think. A friend's wife mentioned seeing her at the register, hair pulled into a no-nonsense bun, voice calm with customers who wanted to return sweaters that had obviously been worn. I didn't feel glee. I felt the softness of something finally landing. There is a difference between punishment and consequences. One is a rock thrown through a window. The other is a bill arriving for choices made. One afternoon, Big Ralph found me staring out over the site like I could read the city's mind. You good? He asked. Better than good, I said, and it was true. Never seen a man do a cleaner demo, he said, clapping my shoulder. You didn't leave dust. I left what mattered, I said, and I carried out what didn't. On a Sunday, I took Maya to the little diner on Elm with the cracked vinyl booze and the waitress who calls everyone Han. We sat by the window, and she told me about her kid's science fair volcano. They learned that explosions are controlled when you set the reaction right, she said, eyes bright. Never thought vinegar could teach that much. Controlled explosions built my year, I said. You know what else does? She asked, reaching across the table. Rebar. Invisible strength. You've got that. After pancakes, we drove by the old neighborhood. My house, no, the house, had a sold sign with a cheerful red banner. Someone else would fix the dent in the drywall. Someone else would burn pancakes and set off the smoke alarm and laugh about it. That felt okay. Do you want to stop? Maya asked softly. No, I said. I want to keep going. We did. That evening, I finally opened a fresh folder on my computer and titled it Future Projects. I dragged in site photos, schedules, and a single document named Standards. At the top, I typed, Inspect the hidden joints. Don't paint over cracks. If a beam is rotten, replace it. When you demolish, pull every nail. Build again, intentionally. Before I closed the laptop, I wrote an email. Not to Avery or Jonathan or anyone who lived in the past. To myself. Subject, blueprints. Body, foundations first. Always. Then everything else. Maya fell asleep on my shoulder while we watched a bad movie that made our living room feel like permission. I looked at her and at the life around us. Coffee rings on the table, a tape measure by the door because I can't help myself, a pair of her safety glasses on the bookshelf, and I felt something I hadn't let myself feel in a long time. Content. If you're waiting for me to say, I forgave Avery, I don't know that forgiveness is the right word. What I found was understanding. That we both ignored the hairline cracks until a whole wall gave way. That she chose fire and I chose water. Both changed the shape of the house. The next morning, a hawk circled above the river, and the building caught the light just so, and the crew's laughing drifted up like music. I locked the site gate, checked the load limits one more time, and headed to the truck. There's a line people love to throw around in the aftermath. You went too far. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. I do know this. No structure should ask you to stand under it while pieces fall. Sometimes you have to clear the lot, grind the rubble, and pour a new slab with your own two hands. I didn't become a colder man. I became a clearer one. So when the next project came, bigger, taller, riskier, I looked up at its steel bones and smiled. Foundations first, I said out loud, because speaking it makes it true. Maya slid a hand into mine, squeezed twice, and nodded toward the crane. Ready. Always, I said. We walked forward, past the demolition, into the build, choosing, every day, to put one more solid thing in a world that tries like heck to wobble. And if somewhere in a folder a 30-second clip still exists, it's only there to remind me what I already know. Inspect the hidden joints. Don't live under a roof you don't trust. And when you rebuild, do it right.